Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I am Nick, and it will again be just me this time. Hopefully, we'll rectify that situation here within a couple weeks. So, without further ado, let's get started on this predictions video. Bash in Berlin is the PLE predictions we'll be discussing today, and this will take place at Uber Arena in Berlin, Germany. I've set this video up in an order of events in which I believe the PLE will occur in, not necessarily the order in which I would use them in. So, you can kind of debate that below if needed. So, first, we have Gunther versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight title. So, the reason I put this card first, or excuse me, this match first, is because I feel like if it were up to me, I think this should main event. It should be the last match of the show, and for several reasons. The first and the obvious one being in Berlin, Germany, just 7 hours away from Gunther's birthplace, which is Vienna, Austria. I think because of that, the crowd's going to be very hot for Gunther. And then obviously, crowd's usually pretty hot for Randy as well, just because it's Randy. So for that reason, I think this should be the last match. But because it's not, I think the first match is a great slot. I just feel a bit bad for anyone that has to follow it because I believe this will probably be the match of the night, if not second best. But my gut instinct tells me this will be the best. So, with all that being said, I think I don't think this will be a surprise to anyone, but I think Gunther should defend here. And I think the reason is obvious. This is, it's kind of strange in how quickly we went from the Intercontinental title to the World Heavyweight. But, here we are. Feels like there was almost no gap, and it really wasn't. But this is his first defense. And although I don't love the reason that we had the match, the whole shoulder being pinned in the King of the Ring final, that didn't love that. But but here we are. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get the first win under his belt. And I think Randy is a great candidate for that simply because, future Hall of Famer and a loss doesn't hurt someone like him. So, let's build the reign and let's kind of move past this and see what Gunther can produce here. And I have no doubt this will be quality content. But Gunther should retain and continue on. So next, we have what I believe is one of the more challenging matches of the night, if not the most. And that is for the Women's Tag Team Championships, an Unholy Union versus Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I won't go into the whole strangely booked Unholy Union and how we got here. I feel like KP and I have pretty much discussed that to great length already. But what I will say is I believe Papa H has done a great job of building up this division, providing them more screen time, and I believe at least we're headed in the right direction. To point fingers at the teams that are in this division that are kind of maybe not booked as strong as they should, i.e., Unholy Union, especially as the champions and heel champions at that, don't come off as that. And then you have the issues with damage control and Dakota missing once again. But again, not going to go into that here. But I believe the right direction here is to give the titles back to Jade and Bianca. Unholy Union had their moment, and I believe it was great at the PLE and kind of been downhill since. Every time it seems like they took a step in the right direction, they took two steps back. So, it is what it is. I think it was nice for them to have the title, but I think the titles belong to Jade and Bianca. While their interactions are sometimes a bit cringeworthy, I will admit, there's no denying the star power, and I think the more time that Jade spends with Bianca, the better off she'll be for it. So, my decision would be to give them back the titles, give them a long title reign, allow Jade to continue to build her in-ring presence with Bianca. It's one of the best in the business, in my opinion, and allow them to build up those tag titles into what they weren't they should be and could be with them, in my opinion. So after that, we have Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and the latest installment in which it truly is unbelievable how long we've been seeing this story, right? Because especially considering we didn't have the first match until SummerSlam. But I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think it's a testament to these two individuals and how good they are at what they do. But I think it's also, you know, it would have been nice to have a match sooner than SummerSlam. But here we are, second installment. I think this one's somewhat straightforward in that, you know, to my surprise, Drew won the first one in pretty, you know, relatively easy fashion. Just one Claymore kick. And I think KP and I discussed, you know, CM Punk looked a little gacked. But, you know, that happens. He hadn't been in the ring for a full match in quite some time. So, yeah, I think the answer here is obvious. I think Punk needs to win and even the series, you know, and I'm hoping that one more match, you know, the rubber match here will probably take place at Survivor Series. That feels like an appropriate place to end it. And yeah, hopefully McIntyre walks away here with the overall W. But I could see it going either way. I think Drew winning here is the right decision. But for the time being, you know, the strap match. Not a huge fan of the strap match. I think I've already voiced that as well on previous videos. Yeah, we'll see what they can do with it. If anyone can make something happen out of that, I think these two guys and their story they've been telling, I think they can pull it off. Next, we have Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, the Terror Twins, as we're calling them, up against Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan. If the women's match isn't the most uncertain, I am for a prediction. This one would have to be the first. You can make a case for either that, you know, both of these matches are somewhat difficult to predict. And I believe if this was a straight 2-on-2 match, I don't think there's any question who should come out on top here, and that is Rhea and Damian. However, it's the Judgment Day on one side, and how the turntable. What used to benefit Damian and Rhea now constantly is a thorn in their side and plagues them on a weekly basis. So while the numbers game will be hard to overcome, I do think Rhea and Damian need to pick up the win here because Judgment Day has been booked pretty strong. Granted, you know, it should be, you know, outnumbering their opponents quite significantly. In the last few weeks have come out on top in the overall grand scheme of things. And yeah, I just think Rhea and Damian do need to win here. And I believe the overall goal, at least I'm hoping the overall goal here, is to get Rhea her rematch against Liv. And I do think that needs to happen sooner rather than later because it does feel like that title has taken a backseat to the overall story and rivalry here. But yes, again, not a lot of confidence here. I think either team could win, and I wouldn't really be that surprised. But yeah, my gut instinct is telling me Rhea and Damian, and I'm assuming LWO might get involved here, kind of continue the stories with that we just recently kind of picked back up on. And maybe our direction is LWO versus Judgment Day. Maybe that's another Survivor Series story we could tell. But for the time being, my main focus is Rhea getting her rematch against Liv, and hopefully that's at the next PLE. And what I believe will be the main event put on by WWE. Again, I don't believe this should be the main event. simply because of the location, and that's my main reason. If this were anywhere else, not so close to Austria, I would have no problem with this being the main event because Cody and KO rarely put on bad matches, if ever. And I don't think this will be any exception. So similar to the Gunther match, I think the winner here is pretty obvious, right? I don't think Cody is losing his title anytime soon. I think can be said for Gunther. I think we're in for some pretty long reigns here, at least with these two titles. And I think the overall, I think the bigger story here is not so much the title. I think it's the match, which I think could, this or the Gunther match, I think will probably be a match for tonight, and I won't be surprised if it is one of them. But I think the bigger story here is the friendship. I'm using air quotes here of KO and Cody, because as pointed out in the vignette a couple weeks ago, KO doesn't ever stay friends with people for long. Personally, I want to see the KO heel turn. It's just a matter of when. Does that happen here tonight? I personally hope so. And I won't go into too much detail here, simply because I think we've discussed that in previous videos as well. I think KP and I both have quite, the affection for KO and his, especially as a heel. So my simple hope is that this match delivers, and I think it will. But I hope it delivers before, if we do get a heel turn, any shenanigans of sort, I hope that happens before here. I was thinking about a DQ finish, and maybe that would help kind of further the story here, and maybe give us another match or two. But simply because of the location on the card, if that is the WWE thinking, and this is our last match, I think a DQ finish sitting at home in the fans would be a bit sour on a normal basis. But I think if anyone could pull off a main event DQ finish, I think it is KO. I think KO can do it. I think KO can send people home, whether they like KO as a heel or just having KO over Cody to finish a PLE would be a pretty big statement, and I think would kind of help him get back up into that title picture. The beginning of this whole story was KO didn't deserve the match, but Cody gave it to him anyways, which is it's still kind of a funny thought, but that's where we are, and that's how we got here. I think KO standing over Cody would be a very big statement, and doesn't necessarily hurt Cody, especially if it's like a heel, a huge heel turn, and he didn't see it coming. Which, we can poke holes in the babyface brains, because we do all the time, and I think it's quite obvious that's coming. Just a matter of when. But we won't go too much further into that. I do think KO is going to turn heel here. I just hope they do it in a way that sends the fans home happy at the end of this event. So with that, this was Bash in Berlin. Predictions from just Nick today. What did you guys feel like I got wrong? What are your predictions here? Feel free to leave your comments below. And hopefully you all enjoy Bash in Berlin just as much as I do. And I will see you in a day or so for the reactions and some further discussion. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. Until next time, take care.